Dang. Welcome to Looper Talk. My name is Tim Palmer. We are on episode 7, this beautiful podcast, Cruising. Today I wanted to talk about if I was a parent of a junior golfer, what I would do or what I wouldn't do in terms of if I had the money, didn't have the money, kind of give some advice along those lines. But to start, let's head to Caddy Corner first. Let's get into that. I have some kind of cool stuff there, and then I want to talk about some news. There's a little article today. Yeah, let's head to Caddy Corner. I'm a beast, little boy, I'm a creature. Ain't no money to make from me being tame, for I tell on myself I'm a please. All right. So, Caddy Corner today, I want to talk about a player caddy interaction that happens not often with a single bag caddy, but mostly with a double bag caddy, because this interaction can create a scenario where the player ends up losing a golf club. And I believe this happens a lot more than we think. So this would be good advice for players going forward. So if you have a caddy carrying 2 bags, the caddy leaves the bags down, and say you are in a bunker and you just got done hitting your shot, and you go up to the golf bags, the caddy is in the bunker raking it, and sometimes what the player will do is they'll rest the club on the bag. Now, that's slightly annoying for us, but what can happen is if I have to move fast and I don't notice your club is up against it on the other side of the bag, and I'm moving fast and I'm not aware of that, the club can then become misplaced. So what I recommend for players is anytime if your caddy is doing something, helping a player find a ball, whatever it is, and you've already hit your shot, say on the green, and you want to go grab your putter, what I would do is go to the golf bags that he has, or that he or she, excuse me, that the caddy has laid down, wherever the bags are. Put your golf club in the bag. Don't lean it up against the bag. Put it in the bag. Because then, 1, it's not going to get misplaced. 2, that allows me to move a lot faster because I'm not having to grab your golf club, then put it in the bag. So, and this is where it'll also tie in with this. Say in that situation, you put your golf club in the bag, and now you have your putter. To me, there's 2 ways of doing this. If you've seen the caddy put your putter in a certain situation or a certain pocket on your bag, do that. Or take the head cover with you. Please don't just leave it on the bag. That could also create the same exact situation. So just to go over it, when you have a caddy, you've hit a shot, the bags are somewhere, the caddy's doing something else, you want to move pace of play along, put the club in the bag. Never lean it up against it. And then after that, if you are going to the green or going to the tee box and you have a club that has a head cover, to me, again, you can leave the head cover accordingly on the bag, make sure it's snug somewhere on the bag, or the best idea would be to take the head cover with you. That way we don't have to, there's no mishap there. But for players, and with these tips that I'm saying, I'm not trying to give you all shit, maybe in a slight bit, but to me, I think a lot of players don't know this. So for me to tell you all this would be simply just giving you all advice. That way, when you do take a caddy, you know that what you're doing is correct and you feel better about it. Okay, so before we get into the parent junior stuff, I want to talk about an article I found. It's this account I follow. I'm not sure if you all follow this account. It's on Instagram. I'm sure they have an X account. It's Monday Q. And they're really good. I really like what they do. So let me show you what I found. All right, so ironic this is all happening when we're talking about this. This is good stuff, but it's not. They can do more, but I'm not going to be that critical. If we're moving in the right direction, I'm gonna applaud you. There's no way I'm gonna sit up here and bitch and moan and whine, and then these tours make some progression in the right direction, and me still hold my finger up to them. I'm gonna give you right. We gotta at some point, if we're so critical to where we're not really understanding why we're critical, we're just doing it for underlying reasons at that point. I want things to legit be better for these people. This whole thing really has maybe a little bit to do with me. I would have loved to at least failed with a good chance. The more I've gotten into this, the more I can slowly admit that my talent level, I would have had to have worked really hard to get to where those guys are. They're very good. And I've met people that are very talented along the way that never really got that chance. So I always felt bad for them because to see this talent go to waste is a shame. So, anyways, so this article is called Positive Change. It's about the Korn Ferry Tour, and it's talking about they are starting to compensate their players within the tour. So that'll help them out with travel and all that, right? So I'll read a couple paragraphs and that's it. But we'll talk about it after that. So it says a memo was sent to the PGA Tour and Korn Ferry Tour Tuesday morning outlining several policy updates, including a new initiative, which is a member support program. The first component is an incentive aimed at 2026 Korn Ferry members, certain ones. The tour will award a $15,000 achievement grant for players who finish 21st to 75th on the 2025 points list. The 10 also including 10 players that graduated from the Americas Tour, which I would assume would be the top 10. And the Americas Tour is like Latin America, I believe. It's not the Canadian. And then you have the top 5 from the PGA TOUR-U, which we'll talk about that today, a little bit more what that is. And then, yeah, and so that's it. What they're doing this for is because the first 5 Korn Ferry Tour events in the 2026 season are in the Bahamas and then in Panama, Colombia, and Argentina. So they're saying that this support provides meaningful financial relief during an expensive start to the season. The grant is a true bonus and does not come out of future earnings or require payment. Hey, now this is a little, and this to me shows that they are either getting complaints or they're starting to understand that their model is beginning to fail. Either way, they're at least becoming aware of the situation. This is amazing to me because it's finally giving support to these players so that they're not having to panic throughout the season on how they're going to get the support. That's a very positive change. Second part of the member support program applies to PGA Tour members who finish outside the top 125. These players will have an $150,000 earnings assurance for next season as long as they compete in at least 12 events on either tour, PGA or Korn Ferry. If a player in this category earns less than that $150,000 combined on either tour, the tour will then pay the difference at the end of the year, provided that they have met the 12 event requirement. Now, I'm in favor of this as well, obviously. A 12 event requirement to me. Now, the average cost we have found out is between 150 to 250,000. That's your average cost for a tour event or for a tour player, what they have to pay in terms of lodging, travel, hotel, or excuse me, that is lodging, but food, just your basic necessities. For them to award the 150K, I I really respect that because that they are understanding what the costs are, which is then, even though that's a low end number and it is somewhat breadcrumby of a situation, they're not giving out more, but to me, they're at least giving out something to where it's covering the basic costs for your low end type of season. So, and they made it a 12 event requirement. It's not like a 16, 18 event deal. I really appreciate that. The memo included also several policy updates. One of the most notable is rangefinders. The Korn Ferry Tour tested allowing them last season, right? And the feedback was almost pretty much very positive. As a result, rangefinders will be permitted for the entire 2026 season. While there is ongoing debate about whether they truly speed up play for professionals, this feels like a smart move for the Korn Ferry Tour. Many players do not work with full-time professional caddies, relying instead on friends, spouses, or parents. For those amateur caddies, having access to a rangefinder will make it much easier and quicker to get accurate numbers. So then they talk about some other whatever. But that's pretty cool, isn't it? So we're moving in a positive direction. There's no complaints on my end. I think that's been long overdue. And I believe now we can strive on making it easier to access the tournaments to get you qualified for the tour. That's where we have to set our sights now, is to make the junior golf affordable. And that's where we'll pivot into two scenarios I want to talk about. One scenario would be if you had the money. One scenario would be if I didn't have the money. And what I'm going to talk about is if for these parents that have a young kid that is an avid golfer that's talented, what would you do with that individual, and what would you not do? And this is coming from, I've tried a few PGA Tour qualifiers. I've failed. I love the pressure. To me, I've learned that the tournament golf pressure, you need to be under it a lot. It's not just something where you can just dive in the deep end and instantly figure it out. Even if you haven't, even if you've done it a long time, to get back into the fire, it does take you a couple tournaments to get used to the small things, really, putting everything out, having to hit the low-hanging fruit shots with as much focus as the tough ones. There's a lot there. So I believe tournament golf is, to be in it as much as you can, provides a huge advantage for that individual. So let's start with the scenario one, where we have all the resources available. And my kid wanted to be in the golf, wanted to play golf. And what would I do to get them a college scholarship? So, depending on age, I wouldn't really push the heavy tournament schedules up until high school. And even then, I would only do 8 months out of the year. 4 months out of the year, we would play another sport. And even throughout the 8 months out of the year, I would like for 2 of those months to where it's more of just a maintain. 6 months, we put it in hard. But if they're 8, 9, 10, 11, say 8 through 12, I would really keep it to, even 6 months out of the year of heavy golf. The other 6 months, I would enforce another sport to get that hand-eye, because they need to develop that hand-eye coordination, and need to develop strength, and they need to develop other aspects of that. And golf is like any other sport, is very specific. And so if you do not allow that young child to have opportunity to play in other sports and to develop, you're taking a lot away from that individual. So as a parent, I would keep it balanced when it comes to playing sports up until they're about 13. And then 13, like I said, I think I do 8, maybe 10 months a year. I would stick to 8 and then have 4 months where we play a different sport, probably through the winter, just to continue on that development. So now, if I have all the money in the world, excuse me, yeah, you get my point. If we have enough resources and we're not worried about what to do or where to go and what to spend money on, the tour I would follow is the AJGA tour, right? And let me show you what one of their tournaments looks like. This is the association. Now, things may have changed. I don't think they have because this is still the number one. This is your average. So this is a tournament fee here, 300. You got a 4-day tournament. Right, so this is the tour that Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, they all grew up playing. Well, here you go. And they travel all over the country. Right now, to me, if I had to plan, I would plan on spending 2-day tournaments. You're looking at, I don't, $1,200, $1,500 roughly, up to $2,000, and then your 3 to 4-day tournaments, you're looking at $2,500 to $4,000 a tournament, and that's including lodging, hotel, food, gas. It's what, $400 for an event, or $300 for an event there. Plus, you got 3 nights, and you got a practice round. Got to do that, and then you're gonna have what, 3-4 nights in a hotel. That's 4 nights in a hotel, 150. That's 600. That's on on a budget. We're already at 1,000. Then we got food, $80 a day, feeding the whole family, and then you have gas, right? So depends on where you're at. If you're having to fly out there, there's your plane tickets. So there's a lot of money there. But that tour, the reason why we want to do the AJGA tour is because it's a nationally recognized junior tour circuit, and those national junior tour circuits have the best coverage to where your kid will get the best experience playing against the best talent, and they will get the best exposure to these D1 colleges, because the whole key with this whole deal anyways is you want your kid to have that chance to make it to the highest level possible so that they're making good money off this thing. And through the PGA TOUR-U, that's where the best recognition is. That's where you have the easiest, I wouldn't say the easiest route, but the most direct route. And so it starts all the way back to when they're this young, to where you have to get them in these national tournament circuits to where they can get around these D1 coaches and they can get this exposure. And the exposure is great, but what's also good is the experience for them to get used to feeling that pressure of playing in tournaments that mean a lot. And so for families that where money's not an issue, this is where they have a huge advantage, because I just follow the AJGA tour 6-7 months out of the year, and my kid, so you have a lot of chances there, and that gives them really opportunity to gain all this experience, get exposure, learn the areas of the country and how the grasses react and all that. So there's a lot of advantages there. But once, if you can get them that exposure on those tours, then you have your best chance to get them that D1 scholarship, because that's what you're looking for. And we're talking the major schools, Chapel Hill, Alabama, University of Florida. those kind of situations. And even, excuse me, even if you don't end up in a high D1, if you end up in a lower D1, they still have the PGA Tour-U involved in those smaller D1s, even some high-end D2s. Plenty of opportunity outside of these major D1 colleges. And to even access those, your best chance is getting as much national tournament exposure as you can. And so as a parent, that's if your child's really adamant on wanting to be in this golf thing and do it right and get to where they have a good opportunity, that's your ticket. Just place like an AJGA circuit. Now there's more. That circuit there is the most well known. So I'm sure we can do some more research and figure it out. Another thing you can do is you can go talk to these high school coaches. Send them an email, see what they say. I'm sure some of them will be more than happy to talk to you. And they'll give you way better advice than me because they'll tell you exactly what they're looking for. But based on what I've seen in my experience and what people have told me and what coaches have told me, yes, they want national tournament exposure. Now, to get to me, this is where it becomes a battle, and this is coming from experience. Now let's talk about the other situation where you say you don't have money and you can't afford to spend $2 to $3 grand a tournament to go travel, and the best opportunities you have are strictly coming from high school golf. So as a parent, this is what I would do. I would try my hardest early on to get them in these first tee programs. Some sort of junior program, some sort of junior golf program where it's a free clinic or it's maybe local local junior golf league. And this is for any parent, by the way. But for your local junior golf league, not that much travel, hopefully just 1-day tournaments. And that way they can get exposure locally. And those tend to not cost too much. And you're not having to stay at hotels, you're not having to travel. Now, the issue with local junior golf tournaments, local junior tours, is you're not going to get exposure to D1 coaches. There might be a few here and there, depending on where you live, but most of the time you're lucky to even get, again, unless you live next to one or there's some nearby, most of these coaches are traveling to specific junior golf events, the big ones. So with a local junior golf tour, you're looking at these D2, D3 colleges are going to be looking after you. And this is where I think, as a parent that doesn't have the adequate funds to push them on a national junior tour, this is the way to do it. Have your child do as much of this local stuff. Again, same idea, 8 through 12, 8 years old to 12 years old. Keep them playing 6 months on, 6 months off, as many other sports as you can. And then once they hit 13 on, maybe get it more into like the 8 to 10 month schedule. Still have them play as much sports as you can. But that way, if the local stuff will allow them still access some local college scholarships or even smaller school scholarships. And with that being said, you can still push the envelope of, hey, we have to perform well in these tournaments. Get them in as many local tournaments as you can. That way, these local colleges will be interested because they can perform well at these smaller colleges and get offers from these bigger colleges down the road. And that would be, why not? There's nothing wrong with moving up the ladder that way. So for these families with kids that are very into golf, want to play college golf. They don't have the money to play and follow these national junior tours. They're stuck in their local state or in their local region and they want to prosper. To me, I would still have some hope being like, okay, I can perform well locally here. Do the best I can. The better I do locally, the more I'll get national recognition. So if you can shoot your 60s at home, someone outside of your home is going to notice. And that'll create your exposure, and you can always start at a smaller institution and work your way up into these bigger institutions. And there is plenty good golf at the D2 level, even D3 level. Plenty good golf. So there's still hope for parents that need an avenue for their child in this golf industry. However, it's still going to cost money. And locally, you have a better chance of fundraisers and grants and even high school scholarships to where if you can't even afford a local junior tour, there are people out there that will love to help. And always try to have your kid working at a golf course as soon as they can, because the more they are around golf courses and they're around people in the golf industry, people in the golf industry love to help out young prospects. And that would really open the window for that individual to have a chance to. It's so hard to make the tour. So to think that for me to think that every single story is going to end that way would be ridiculous. And as a parent, we need to understand that as well. The PGA Tour is really hard to make, not to mention just to make a D1 golf team nowadays is very tough because you're up against some international talent too, not just local, not just nationally in the United States. There's a lot of these colleges that recruit outside the United States now. So it's a tough thing to be a part of. But I know there's a lot of young talent that deserves to be in a better position than what they're in right now. I think I've talked about this in that one podcast where we talked on how to help all this out, we would need a national junior tour that wouldn't cost an arm and a leg to be a part of, and it would follow, say, the PGA Tour around and give back to a local public course. Not only that, it would allow every junior in the area to have a chance to play, and it would give the local college course or the local college coaches a window to see if there's talent within their area that they would be interested in recruiting that they didn't realize was there beforehand. That's something would really, I think, help all this out. The AJGA doesn't do scholarships that are equivalent to full tuition. Neither does the First Tee. So it's to be a parent with not that much money and to have your child in the golf, to be that interested in the golf world is a tough situation. But just know that there is families and there's people out there that are more than happy to help your kid out if they are that into golf. Because at the end of it, golf is such a good sport to learn from, and it's a great sport to teach values and instill values in your youth. So at the end of it, junior golf to me isn't just about getting them on the team and getting them a chance at the PGA TOUR-U and to have all that opportunity. That's not what it's about. What it's about is having these juniors be a part of the game to help them grow as individuals And then after that, it's whatever happens from there happens. But at least they were able to be a part of golf, and golf was able to teach them how to become an adult and how to be a good citizen to humanity, right? So that's what it's about. And golf does that naturally. We all know that. Doesn't have to be said too much. Golf will whoop your ass if it needs to. So, but I believe that's it for today. Kind of a fluffy little light, not a lot of shit talking podcast today. But yeah, for you parents that have a junior golfer, keep them in the game, but make sure you keep them playing other sports. That's to me is very important. Helps them develop as people mentally, but it also physically allows them to continue on with hand-eye coordination, white muscle tissue. That stuff is important as well. So yeah, anyways, thank y'all for tuning in. It's another day at Looper Talk. My name is Tim Palmer. And don't forget, lighten your bags, 200 a strap. Thank y'all. Have a good night.